We've cut apart the Air Jordan 1, the Air Jordan 2, the Air Jordan 3, and now it's time for the Air Jordan 4, one of the most popular and iconic Jordans of all time. But is it a performance shoe reminiscent of its historical past dating back 34 years, or is it just a toy shoe at this point? And by toy shoe, I mean these retro re-release sneakers that have visually gimmicky tech that might have worked at the time when they were first released, but now, usually it's all for show. Because on the surface, this shoe looks like it's an animated shoe or a kid designed it. It looks like he's just like, I want some mesh here, I want 15 eyelets, I want an air unit in the heel and the toe, I want all this fancy stuff. And I don't mean that in a bad way, because I love the look of this shoe. I like how like kid designed it is and anime it is, but that doesn't make it a good shoe. So that's what we're gonna try to figure out by running it through our test and cutting it in half to find out, is this an actual performance shoe or is it just a toy shoe? And this video is sponsored by FlexiSpot. When we were considering upgrading our office for better work-health balance, FlexiSpot contacted us to offer to help. So here we are with a little office makeover, because FlexiSpot makes great standing desks and other office supplies. So first here with the desk, this is a really popular desk in the shop. This is the E7, which is very stable, especially if you compare it to the other standing desks that we have. It moves up really smoothly, but when it's really tall, it still is wobble free. But if you're really after ultra stability, there's a four-legged version called the E7Q that makes it completely stable at the tallest heights. And if you didn't know, FlexiSpot also makes ergonomic chairs. They have their C7 premium ergonomic chair, and it was designed to give you the greatest comfort for long periods of sitting. It has adjustable seat height and depth, it has an extra wide headrest, and tons of positions to customize it to fit you exactly how you want. So be sure to check out FlexiSpot if you're trying to just get your work health and your body back in alignment from sitting all day, every day, because FlexiSpot provides all kinds of standing desks and ergonomic chairs to meet your demands. If you want a premium standing desk for daily use, you can check out the E7 Pro or the 4-model standing desk version we talked about, the E7Q Odin. And if you're on a limited budget, they even have the E2 model, and it only costs $150 and you get that standing desk function. So thanks again to FlexiSpot, and check them out, the links in the description. So what is this historical past that I'm referring to? Well, in 1985, the Air Jordan 1 releases, 1986, the Air Jordan 2 releases, which was an attempt at a performance luxury sneaker, but it completely flopped, partly due to its price of over $100, which was almost double the price of the Jordan 1. And then later that year, both Air Jordan designers left Nike after the Jordan 2 flop, and even Michael Jordan himself was having second thoughts about this relationship and the future of the brand and them together, and even Nike had serious doubts. So in 1988, Tinker Hatfield takes over the Jordan line and backs off the luxury angle and designs the Jordan 3, and it was a hit, which breathed some much needed life back into the brand and for Jordan's hope of the future of the relationship. But 1989 was just around the corner, and Nike was expecting Tinker to replicate the success of the Jordan 3 for the Jordan 4. So throughout 1988, Tinker Hatfield put his head down and went to work making the Jordan 4, a more function-based design based off of the Jordan 3. Finally, in February of 1989, the Jordan 4 makes its debut at the NBA All-Star Game, where Michael Jordan wore the black cement colorway and dropped 28 points. But that wasn't the most exciting thing that happened with the Jordan 4 for that year, because on May 7th, 1989, the shot happens. And if you don't know what this is, it's Bulls versus Cavaliers, Game 5, 3 seconds left on the clock. They inbound the ball to Jordan, he rounds the key, shoots that classic fading jump shot to win the game, sinks it, forever cementing that moment and that classic iconic shot in NBA history forever. And more importantly for this shoe, attaching this shoe to that mythical classic NBA moment forever. So you can understand why this shoe was so popular when it was released, and it was an instant hit even at that steep price of $110 at the time. And it wasn't just those two moments, because throughout the rest of that season, Michael Jordan had his best statistical year ever. And fast forward to today, and it's still one of the most popular and iconic Jordans and sneakers of all time, with tons of colorways that's been released since, and lots of collabs with Travis Scott, Cos, Drake's, and a bunch more. They have an SB version, and it's the most popular Jordan on Google Trends by leaps and bounds. So what is it about the Jordan 4 that makes it so popular besides the history? Well, based off of the story, it seems like it is a performance-based shoe because of those three things that we went over. But first, let's go over the shoe information, because the brand is Jordan, the style is the Air Jordan 4 Retro. They weigh 1 pound 4 ounces. These retailed for $200. We had to pay a lot more for resale, and they're made in Vietnam. So with such a strong performance history, what is it about the upper that is performance-based? Well, at the initial launch, it was made from what they called Durabuck, which is just a fancy way of rebranding fake leather and positioning it as a performance material when it's just fake leather. So on this retro version, which panels are fake and which are real leather? Well, the toe bumper is leather, the vamp is leather, the eye stay is fake, the side panel is leather, and this upper bit is fake as well. So really half fake and half real, and the leather itself is 1.5 millimeters thick, and it has some of the grain in it. We did the puncture test on both to see which was stronger. The leather's stronger. So not bad compared to sneakers of today and what you can get pretty much any mall, but for 200 bucks, I wouldn't want any fake leather in my sneaker. And I'd hope that the real leather wouldn't do this to the toe after just a few wears of B-roll shots in the back alley. That's the problem with this really cheap Nike leather, especially at 200 bucks. So nothing overtly performance about the leather. It's pretty standard Nike leather, and it's got fake leather. So I'd say it's pretty clearly toy shoe leather. What about these PU overmold mesh? Is it just PU? Well, we put the flame to it, and yes, it is. So it might help with some abrasion, but it's mostly for looks, so toy shoe feature. What about these support wings? Well, we did the eyelet test on just the support wing itself, and it only took 39.4 pounds to pull through. So you definitely want to lace these through, not just these wings, but the actual eyelets behind them as well, because we did the pull test on those, and it took 228 pounds to pull through. So 40 pounds versus over 200 pounds, you definitely don't want to run the wings alone. And just out of curiosity, to see if it gives you any lateral support, I want to just see if we can rip one of these off and just see how easy it is. Oh, I'm not gonna rip it all the way off. That was super easy. Save that for future videos. So is that a toy shoe feature? Yeah, pretty clearly it is. It doesn't do anything. If you put any strain on that at all, it comes off. I even had questions about this like back pull loop too, because everyone talks about this for some reason. I was curious if I could pull this off. And okay, at least this one's stronger. So okay, that is a performance shoe pull tab. At least we got one thing going for the shoe. Then if we look at the inside for some performance things, for the most part, there's nothing of note on the inside, just a classic Nike lining, classic lasting material, but the insole is a nicer insole. It's nothing special, but it's not the cheaper open cell foam. This is a closed cell foam. But one thing they did do on the inside is they tried to make it more breathable than the Jordan 3. So we threw both these shoes on the breathability test, the Jordan 3 first, and it's not breathable at all. There's no mesh anywhere. Compared to the Jordan 4, when we put that on there, you can see the smoke coming out through these panels and the mesh on the side here. So they did achieve that in making it a more breathable shoe. So I would say that is performance. So mostly toy features at this point and not a whole lot of performance, but sometimes performance is like the Aristotle quote where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So to test that, we rigged up a little test called Can Weston Dunk in These Shoes? And the answer is no, because I don't think I can dunk anymore. But since we don't have a hoop to prove that, we just rigged up a board with the inch marks on it, and I jumped as high as I could with a controlled pair of shoes several times, and I averaged 9 foot 11 inches. Then I jumped in the Jordan 4s with the exact same setup, and my jumps averaged 9 foot 11 inches and 3/4 of an inch. So I gained 3/4 of an inch jumping the Jordan 4s compared to the control sneaker. So it seems like it did increase my performance. Was it a performance I was proud of? No, but anyone could use an extra 3/4 of an inch. And I think the reason it performed better is it's a pretty rigid shoe. It is not easy to bend. And so I think it almost acts as a springboard when you're jumping. And then I also didn't feel as much like I was jumping in sand. You know, it was that air unit in the heel feels like it stabilized me so I could jump a little bit easier. So from that test, it does seem like it affects your performance in a good way. But my question is this air unit actually pressurized? Is this air unit doing anything, or did I even fool myself? Well, we put the little pressure tester on there, punctured it through, and pretty clearly there is pressure in there. And so then we tried to puncture through the 4-foot air unit, and we could not find that thing. I punctured it like 3 or 4 times, and I couldn't puncture it. Must not be able to reach it. So there might not be an air unit in the 4-foot. So we need to cut it in half to find out, and that's what we're gonna do. So let's cut it in half. All right, we got them cut in half. If you're not subscribed, consider doing it because these shoes are pricey, especially when you gotta buy the resale ones. And you know, we do this twice a week. So a little free click to subscribe go a long way. So let's see what's inside. So what's on the inside? Well, a surprisingly thick outsole. It's a pretty impressive outsole for being honest. A really soft midsole at 20 Shore A. And it does have an air unit in the forefoot, but it's the tiniest little baby air unit I've ever seen in my entire life. And I thought maybe I just cut it in a weird section. So I cut this way to see the air unit, and it is barely an air unit. There's almost no room for air in there. I don't even know, I guess they have to put it in to make it as close to the original, but like, you're not getting any performance out of that. So overall, is this a performance shoe or is it just a toy shoe? Pretty clearly it's a toy shoe. Is it worth 200 bucks and even more now? Not for performance and not really for the value per wear. But this is one of the coolest looking sneakers ever made. It's up there with one of my favorite looking sneakers, and it has one of the coolest histories of all time with several moments cementing it in shoe and NBA history. Does that make a toy shoe worth 200 bucks? Not to me, but I can see why people will gladly pay it despite the shortcomings. So as long as you don't expect anything more than a $100 sneaker out of this 200 plus sneaker, and you're fine paying 2 times the price for it, you might be happy with it. But just keep in mind it's a toy shoe that's probably twice the price that it should be if you just compare it on the surface to other sneakers. So now to my favorite part, which we're just gonna start doing in every video because it's super fun to do. Well, can I rip it in half? It's a good little durability test. You know, it's another embarrassing one like the jump test. I thought I had a little bit better vertical than that. Might have to start training a little bit. So let's see if I can rip it. Come on. Ooh, this is a pretty good one. It's pretty solid. I'll even stand up. I won't show you my legs. Yeah, that's cemented pretty well, and that Strobel stitch is good. So, pass the rip test. So let me know what you guys think and what your experience has been in them, and thank you guys so much for supporting this. It's really fun showing you guys what you're spending your hard-earned money on, for better or for worse, for toy shoe, for performance shoe. So thank you guys. See ya.